Chattanooga Christian softball coach Stephen Rogers joining us on Off the Bench Radio. And, Coach, thanks for taking the time. Hopefully you had a good holiday weekend. How are we doing tonight?
I'm doing well. Thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely. So, last week obviously was a busy week in the mid-state, especially for you guys, making another spring fling appearance. And I think the weather kind of put a wrench into the plans or to the start of spring fling, and it didn't stop the momentum you guys had leading through the whole week and ultimately ending with a state championship, first in school history for you guys. So can I just talk about, just kind of getting off to that good start, against St. Benedict and kind of the comeback against Baylor in the second game to kind of put you guys in that championship position there to play St. Benedict again and get the state championship.
Yeah, that first game against St. Benedict, I think it went maybe 5 or 6 innings before we actually scored a run. When you're playing those high pressure games, sometimes it takes a little bit for your bats to get going, but finally we were able to string together 2 or 3 runs, and that made the difference. Then moving on to a back-to-back game, playing one game is hard enough, but having to play back-to-back, a little doubleheader in the heat on turf, it's challenging. We had a good game going against Baylor, then, we made some costly errors. They went up 6-1, and, proud of the girls, man. They hung in there, they battled back, and we ended up, taking that one 8-6.
Yeah, and going back to that Baylor game, in that second game of that Wednesday doubleheader you guys played, you guys had a deficit there. Obviously, they took the regular season series from you guys, and we were at that game against at CCS there, and it kind of seemed to me like to be the turning point of the year because after those 2 games, you guys didn't lose, and and you brought home a state championship. Would you say that would be the turning point of the season for you and your team?
It definitely was. Those 2 games against Baylor, were probably our worst 2 games at the plate that we had. And that can come with, playing that high intensity game and, especially playing against someone like Baylor. we were not disciplined at the plate, swung at pitches we normally don't swing at. And that just comes from, the girls wanting to win so bad. They're trying to do too much, and you can't do that, especially against a team like Baylor. And so, we had a pretty good meeting after following that game and just talk. We emphasized the importance of swinging at those pitches that we like to hit. And man, they made an adjustment, and you could see touches of it as we start going through the state tournament. First couple of innings, here we go. We start swinging at pitches that's out of our zone. And, but they did a great job of making those adjustments and coming back and hitting our pitches. And, I think that state championship game, I don't know if you've seen it or not, but we hit a lot of balls very hard right at somebody. So unless you were there, you didn't see those balls that was hit that way. But yeah, that was definitely a turning point. But we had a lot of younger players step up. The upperclassmen were great leaders. Great team wins all around. Yeah, no doubt about that. You mentioned your upperclassmen, right? You got a couple that have been on our program in the past, Addie Lewis and Hannah Smith, and in addition to, Kylie Black tossing 35 strikeouts over the 3-game period at Spring Fling. Kind of talk about just your upperclassmen and just kind of the leadership they showed last week because, obviously they got the experience from being there the last few years, but definitely it seemed like they pulled the lessons together from those last couple of appearances that kind of molded into this championship run you guys had. Yeah, that definitely helps. I think this is my 3rd season with the team. I think most of those upperclassmen, I think they were on the varsity as 8th graders, so they've went to, the Spring Fling every single year. So definitely that experience helps, and they don't just perform on the field; they lead in the dugout. They bring the energy. They're the heartbeat of the team. So it's helped shape the culture for our softball program for sure.
Speaking of the culture and speaking of just the community over there at Chattanooga Christian, obviously, like we've heard and we've talked about, first state championship in school history on the softball side. What is that title? Not just meant to the community and the athletic department and the school as a whole, but to you personally as well.
Well, to be honest with you, I mean, I had those questions asked to me back at work today. It really hasn't sunk in yet. Now, when the game was over with and we had that title, there was emotions everywhere. I could hardly do interviews. I was so emotional, and it has nothing to do with me. I was just so happy for those girls because I know I've seen the look on their faces for the past 2 years when we finished second and runner-up. They've worked so hard, and it just meant so much. The school was proud. When I got on the bus on the way home, my phone was blowing up with text messages, emails. We had more faculty and administrators at the state championship game than I've seen probably combined in my 3 years. I mean, everybody was ready for this to happen. And when it did, it's so hard to describe. It's definitely a special feeling.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And like we talked about, kind of setting a new standard for CCS softball, and it shows it can be done. So, you mentioned, when you guys got back on the bus heading back to Chattanooga, obviously, a whirlwind 2 days, 3 games in 2 days, state championship. How did you kind of decompress and kind of just, take a deep breath and just say, the season's over, now we can kind of relax a little bit moving into the summer?
Well, I don't know if decompress is the correct word. I mean, we had some fun on that bus ride home. They wanted to go to, grab some lunch right off the bat, and we went to Raising Cane's. We go in there, and we run into St. Benedict, who we just played. They're eating in the same restaurant.
Oh, my gosh.
They're super classy. The coaches are great. After the game, I hugged every one of their players as well going through the line. I mean, they played really hard. They're a great team, and but yeah, we got our food to go. We got on the bus. It was music. It was dancing. We had a welcome home party. We pulled in the parking lot. We had a little police escort off the interstate and pulled in the parking lot, and there was more people in the parking lot than was at the game. So it was a pretty cool experience. And then I get in my truck and drive home, and it's just quiet, and it's just me, and I'm, it's like, whoa, did that really just happen?
Well, it totally did for sure. So I guess follow-up question on the Raising Cane's visit. Did the trophy go into the restaurant before when the orders were made to go there?
It did not. It was in the front seat.
There you go.
And strapped in the seatbelt.
I love it. That's good stuff. Well, Coach, I want to thank you for making the time to join us here tonight and kind of get your perspective on what was a pretty outstanding day, historic day for Chattanooga Christian athletics and Chattanooga Christian softball there for sure. Congratulations again on the state championship and just the time as always over the last few weeks. We definitely have, it's been great kind of following you and your team along this path, and congratulations on getting the hardware, bringing it back to Chattanooga. We appreciate the time.